Great to see you all. My name is Phil Burney and I'm running today's session around Microsoft Teams. We're on the Microsoft hoodie today, but I've put my disclaimer on there. I am a former teacher and network manager and now work for a Microsoft Global Education training partner called the Tablet Academy, and running this event on behalf of Microsoft. If you have any questions, you can direct them to Nicola Meek, and her email address is there if you have any feedback around today's session. I've been invited to present here on behalf of Paul Morrison. Some of you may know him. He was hoping to be here today, but he's got a lot on at this particular time. So I am here representing Microsoft. I know a lot about Microsoft tools, but if you want to throw your fruit to whatever you're going to do about Microsoft, then I'll have to note that down and you can throw fruit later. But I think we've got some fantastic stuff to show you today. Who's using Office 365 in their schools? Okay, fantastic. Who's using Microsoft Teams for your staff? Okay, Microsoft Teams for your students. Right, interesting. Great, so what I can offer today is a guide on how users can really effectively use Teams. I know a lot about the sort of admin side of things, but that's not my area of specialty at the moment. I can try and direct you to some resources. But my plan is to show you what Teams is, how it can work for staff and students and for productivity, and then I can answer questions around management and those types of things. So I've got a few slides, but I want to get into the live demo and we can show you some stuff there. So part of the design of Microsoft Teams is to provide a single interface for all the key tools that you need to use for the people that you work with. So prior to Microsoft Teams, it's had its second birthday. Office 365 started out as a combination of a range of different services, Exchange, SharePoint, and other things. Then, as tools have progressed, you've now got Onenote and Forms and Sway and Flow and Power Apps, Planner, but they're great, but there's no way to see all the relevant information for specific roles that you have. So Microsoft introduced Teams to bring those things together. So you might be working in a school as a maths department, and when you're working in a maths department, you typically need somewhere to put your files, you need somewhere to have your meeting agendas, you might need some sort of data that you are keeping track of. Teams brings that together in one place. You might be teaching. As a teacher, you need somewhere to put your teaching resources. You need some way to communicate with your students. You need some way of setting tasks for the students. They can hand it back in and you can grade that. Teams brings that together as well. In the past, Microsoft typically created products and then it was the same product that they used for business, for banking, for manufacturing. There you go, education. You work out how you're going to use that in your environment. There's been a big change over the last few years in all industries for Microsoft. They're listening a lot more to the people that they're designing the products for. So you'll still have a product that is the same, but it is adapted for those different markets. So where does that fit with education? Well, Microsoft Teams is used a lot in businesses, government organizations as well. And they have used the same product but adapted it for education. So there is now Teams for education. When you're working with students, you've got a few additional things that you need to be able to do, like handing in work, like being able to mute students when they're not really commenting on the right things. You don't necessarily have that in a corporate context. Microsoft has designed the tools to work in education as well. And some of the key things that you can do with Teams, you can collaborate. So you can set up tasks where students can work together, staff can work together, whether that's in the school, in the department, across the school, across the map, across the whole local authority, where you can, as a teacher, personalise learning for students, you can share resources, and for students, you can have different things like project groups, class groups in Teams as well. And the other element of Teams is around the communication side of things. So anyone using Skype for Business at their institution? Okay. All those, Microsoft now say they have feature parity with what the features in Skype for Business are now in Microsoft Teams. So you can audio call, video call, instant messaging as well as connect it into phone systems if you're on the appropriate plan. Because we've got a techie audience, I've just got a simple diagram here to explain the different elements of teams. So within each team, you have the ability to have files, and when you create a team, it automatically builds a SharePoint site. When you're in a team as well, you need to be able to communicate with people. So you've got a separate element in Teams called chat, which has got messaging and calls and video calls and screen sharing. And a lot of these features all come together in the same place. I'm going to go straight to a demo, and I'll come back to sort of some of the management stuff. So here I am going in first of all as a teacher. This is what the Teams interface looks like. There's the main menu input. Oh, thank you very much. Let's switch off our presentation. Please do let me know anything else that's...
Oh, there's a clicker on the...
There we go. So that's better, thank you. Hopefully you can see that now. That is the Teams interface, not the one you saw previously. You've got a purple bar down the left-hand side, or it looks black in this screen, which is your main menu, where you've got activity, that's your notifications, chat, where you can message or call or video call, and the majority of the time you'll spend in this section here, which is called Teams. This middle pane here shows you the teams that I'm currently a member of. So in this case, I'm set up as a teacher, I'm in an SLT team, and I'm in a science class team. There's also meetings that you can set up. So when I'm scheduling a meeting here, I can say a specific thing that I might want to do is an audio conference, video conferencing, screen share. That cannot be necessarily ad hoc. That can be something you're scheduling, and that goes in your calendar, much like you may be familiar with Skype for Business, and you can see your files. You can use it purely in the browser. All the main browser platforms are now supported, and you can download the app for Windows and for Mac and for iOS and for Android. Now, in Teams then, when you are going to create a team, there's a few different ways they can be created. Firstly, if I'm going to do this manually, I can create a team here. There's 4 different types of teams you can use in education. There's an anyone team on the far right there. That's a standard team. You create a team, it creates a files area, and you've got a conversations area. Then these other 3 are very specific for education. So the next one here, classes. This has got the same features as an anyone team, but has got 3 special features for when you're working with students. Firstly, you've got key controls as a teacher, so you can mute students and you can change some key settings. You have assignments here, so you can set work for students, they can hand it in and you can grade it. And there's also, has anyone heard or seen OneNote class notebooks? Okay, I'm doing a lot of training on OneNote class notebooks over the last few years. Where do they fit with Teams? Well, when you make a class team, it automatically creates a class notebook inside the team. If you are not familiar with a class notebook, OneNote's been around for a long time. Anyone know when OneNote first came out?
2003.
Fantastic, prize to that gentleman there. 2003 OneNote first came out. I remember opening it going, looks a bit like Word, so what? And closed it again. It's now available on any platform for free, and it's a great note-taking tool which leverages the power of the cloud, so you can have your notes on your phone and sync with your laptop and sync with your PC. And I've used it for team note-taking, so you might have a department where you've got agendas and meeting minutes and all that sort of stuff. That also works really well for that. It's particularly popular in education when Microsoft introduced the OneNote class notebook. Because what you could do is, well, you could say, well, every student in the class, make a notebook and share that with the teacher. And you can make your written notes if you've got a device with a pen, or you can put in photos and text and all that sort of stuff. But wouldn't it be more helpful if that could be automated in some way? So class notebook is a standard OneNote file that's got 3 special areas in it. There's a collaboration space where all students in the class can contribute. There's a content library where the teachers can put in materials for the students to view, but they can't edit, and the teacher can distribute content from there. And every student in the class gets their own special section in that notebook that only they and the teacher can see. What's fantastic about that is the teacher can see the work the students are doing as they're doing it. Give them feedback as they go along with voice or with pen or with stickers or all sorts of stuff. So that's a tool that's been around for a little while. Microsoft thought, that's fantastic, we'll put that in a class team. Because one of the benefits of Teams is because it brings the tools together, no longer do you now have to add people into all the different tools. When you add someone to a team, they get access to everything within the team. So in the past, maybe on a maths department, okay, well, we need to set up a new mail group so we can email everyone, and then we've got a shared file area, so we've got to sort of add them to a group there, and we've got a spreadsheet, okay, we've got to add the new staff member to the shared spreadsheet. Oh yeah, we've got a notebook for our meeting minutes, we've got to add them to that. Teams allows you to add a person into a team or take them out of the team, and it manages those permissions using something called Office 365 groups. Yes, there's terminology, groups and teams and groups, how do they all fit? I'm more than happy to chat about that a little bit later. The key thing for you to know now is you can make different types of teams, an anyone team and a class team as well. Typically in a team, there are 3 different levels of permissions. There's an owner or owners. They're not an IT person, well, they could be. This is somebody that's appointed with leadership responsibility for that team. Then there are members who contribute to the team. And it's possible with teams to also invite guests into a team. These are people outside your organisation. Now, as an admin, you've got all controls over all of that sort of stuff. How does that affect a class team? When a class team is created, a teacher is automatically the owner. Students are automatically the members. So they're the 4 different types that you can create. The PLC team is a very standard team, but it's got templates in there for a professional learning community, a term that's used a lot in the States. And a staff members team is a little bit like a class team. It doesn't have the assignments, but it uses something called a OneNote staff notebook, where you can have one-to-ones with different staff members. Okay. When you click on a team to create it, you just put in a name here. So I'm just going to call this Test EduGeek. Class. You can use an existing team here as a template if you wish. And this is just manual creation. Then you put in the names of the students here. And you could use a security group here. I'm just doing a very bare bones. Add as many teachers as you need to. And then the class is created. Now, that's great. How can I make that faster, you might say? Well, you can create the team as a teacher, and the teacher can manage the team and go to the settings, and they can generate a team code if they wish. So they can give that to the students on their first day in the lesson, and they can join with that code. But again, that's still a bit of work. There's a tool that Microsoft provide called School Data Sync, which is free, available to work with Office 365, that allows you to create those classes based on information from your information system, SIMS, etc. Or there are third-party products that you may already be using for other parts of your school where that can get the data out of there and create those classes and maintain those class lists. So those teams can be created dynamically, or they can be created manually. Typically, some schools go, well, I don't want students to create the teams, or I don't want staff to create the teams. That can all be controlled as well, how or who you let to create a team. Once a team is created then, as you'll see with the one I've just created, every team has what's called a general channel. That's the heading underneath there. And inside there, you've got an area for conversation, where you can do messaging, a bit like a forum, I guess. So I can type something in here, and then everyone in the team can see that. And you can use the @ mentions to notify everyone in the team. So if I want to get everyone's attention, use the name of the team here, and that then will provide a notification for everyone in the team. So it pops up if they're on a phone or a tablet, they'll get a little notification like that. How can that be used in the classroom? Well, I've created separate channels, that's those headings there, for each of the key units of work that I teach. And inside there, I can have a conversations area specifically to that channel. So I've asked a question from my class, what is one planet you know in the solar system? And I have responses from the students in the class. Every channel has got that conversations area. Then there's a files area built on SharePoint, so you can put resources in there. By default, every file and folder can be edited or deleted by anyone in the team. So you can think, oh, that might be interesting in the classroom. Microsoft have listened to feedback. I think they announced it yesterday. I haven't got it today, but it must be rolling out this week. A special folder in each of these files areas called class materials, where teachers can put resources that are read-only by default. Being built on SharePoint, though, you've got a lot of control. So you can click to open in SharePoint for your files area, and you'll see the SharePoint site that's built behind it. So you've got all the SharePoint controls of being able to sync it, files on demand, permissions, and all that sort of stuff. So if I really did need to change a file permission or folder, as an owner of the team, I can click on the I in SharePoint, and I can manage who has access to that particular file and change the permissions if I need to. You may wonder, how does this work behind the scenes? Well, a SharePoint site is created, and every time a new channel is created, a separate folder in that SharePoint document library is created for those channels. So you'll recognize these names: Earth and Space, animals including humans, are the same names as these channels here in each team. Inside a team, then, you can add along the top here tabs. So in the general channel of every class, you'll always see conversations, files. You'll see a class notebook where the teacher can set up that OneNote class notebook for their students, and they can use it here purely in Teams itself, or they can use it outside of Teams. So I can show you that's the structure with collaboration space, content library, and every student in the class's work. I can delve down and see what's Ada up to today. Has she been doing any of her work? I can see what she's done. If I need to pop that out, of course, I can just open that in another tab. With most of the tools in Teams, you can always open them out into another location, and you can explore them there. And then, in the class team, here's the assignments piece, and this is something that teachers are really interested in. So I might want to set a task for my students. I can click Create. There's 4 different types of assignments I can create. The standard assignment, I can set a task with a deadline, and the students could upload whatever they like. Or I can set a task where there's a file that I want to distribute to each of the students for them to complete, like a worksheet. Fill in the blanks here, or fill in the table. I can use a quiz. The quizzes are using Microsoft Forms. Within Office 365, Forms allows you to make surveys, and that's data collection tools, but also quizzes, which can be automatically marked. You can set that quiz inside of Teams, so it has those deadline features, and all the marks go back to the same location that we'll see in a minute. And the 4th type here, you can create one from an existing assignment. You might teach 2 Year 7 maths classes, or you've got a topic from last year. I'll do the standard type of assignment here, and within assignments I can assign it to the class or other classes, which students, if I need to differentiate, and I can put in a title for this task. So this might just be Solar System Project. Then you can categorize it if you wish. You can leave some instructions here. Scroll down here. I'm just going to say complete the worksheet. Not very nice typing. Okay. And this is where I can add resources. So I can use OneNote with assignments, but that's probably a little bit complex for just right now. I can find a file or a link or something I want to upload. I'm just going to find one of the files I've already got in my OneDrive here. On the task I may have pre-prepared. This could be any file that you want to distribute. It doesn't have to be a Microsoft file extension. And every student is now going to get their own copy of the file, or I could choose whether they can't edit it. So pick a deadline, set it up for later, where the students can hand it in, and I can assign points. So I might give a mark out of 10 for this. It also supports something called Rubrics. Having done a lot of training on Teams, not many English teachers teachers from England understand what a rubric is. It's a very American term. The closest thing we'd probably refer to it here in England is marking criteria. But what you do is you can set up criteria to aid with the standardization and the support of marking. So you can put the criteria that you're looking for in terms of, I'm looking how well they've described their planets, and then set up different levels of achievement, excellent, good, fair, or poor. These can be all personalized. It just helps with the marking. If the teacher wants to give a standard feedback, they can say, well, your description of the planets was excellent because there was no spelling errors and used good descriptive language, but in terms of your understanding of the distances from the sun, you didn't quite understand what that was talking about, so you might have only got good in that element. And you can share these rubrics so that across department, across the mat, you can use these rubrics. They're optional. I'm going to cancel that for now. You can import spreadsheets with them already set up as well. And I'll just click the Assign button. This then is going to set that task for all the students in that class. They will be notified with a notification. Of course, if you, just in the browser, if you're using Edge or Chrome or some of the modern browsers, you can now choose to have those notifications pop up in front of your browser, or if you're using the desktop client or Teams, it will be installed and just running in your system tray. If you want to, you can also use the facility to be notified via email as well, because all your notifications, when you want to set them, you can say, I want to get an email digest every hour, or that's what's on by default, every day, as soon as possible. For those, when you're doing adoption, teachers go, oh, there's another system I've got to check. Well, you'll be able to see if activities occurred in there by getting an email digest. So, the big red notification here, general, there's a new assignment that's been set. If I switch across to one of my student users here, they've also, they've got an assignment. They're going to go into their class, and this is the one I just set, so they can view this assignment. This is what I was talking about with the notifications. I'm just going to dismiss that for now. And they can see the task at hand. I can add additional work here, and I can click on the Word document here. This is just going to open it in Word online, but there's a file picker. You can choose to open it in Word on the desktop, or just within Teams, or in a separate tab. And this is the simple task that I gave the students to do. Built into Word Online now, a lot of fantastic accessibility features. That might be for another time. There's now dictation at the top here, where you can dictate into the page. And under the View menu now, there's a new feature called Immersive Reader that's being included in all the Microsoft products. So in the past, you used to have a special add-on to get accessibility features. The new CEO, Satya Nadella, is very passionate about accessibility and making tools accessible for everyone. He has a son with additional needs, and now they're trying to put these accessibility features in every product. So within Word Online, and also Outlook Online, OneNote Online, I can press play and listen to the text being played back. I can change the voice and the speed. I might be a learner that needs bigger writing or a different coloured paper, saving the teacher having to print out everything if they've got a computer to use. I can turn that on, turn on the parts of speech, break the words down into syllables. Some TA probably has to do that on some text if they didn't have a tool like this. And you can do line focus for those students that might have dyslexia and need to see one line at a time.
System. Planet.
And one of my favourite features is the picture dictionary and the translation. So you can click, what's this word here mean? It gives you a picture, you can hear it pronounced.
Planet.
And you can also translate. You might be working with EAL students. We've got someone who speaks, let's pick a nice language. Romanian, and we can do by word, the word planet in English,
planet,
and Romanian.
Planet, planeta.
Or we can switch this across the whole document. It might be recently come across to the UK. I'm not really sure what this task is about. There's the task in Romanian. Make it a bit smaller so you can see on this resolution. And there it is in English. You can hear them both played. So that's just built into some of the products. You can see you can use all the stuff even within Teams, within Word Online, or you can always open it in another product. So as a student, I'm just going to quickly do something here. It saves automatically in Word Online. I'm just going to close that now. and a bit close to the deadline, need to hand it in. Being in Word Online, it's all saved, and so I just click the hand in button. And the Teams team likes to be cool. They've got sparkly animations. We've got the octopus getting an ice cream cone. And then you can, as a teacher, see what's going on. So this is back in my teacher's console now. I'm going to go to assignments at the top. I'm going to see what tasks I have. This one here is the one I said earlier. And I'm going to review that task. At the moment, I can see one person has viewed it, one person's handed it in, and I've got one lot of marking to do. So I can see who in the list has handed in, Ada Lovelace. Click on there and see the work that she's done. Previews here in Word Online. And if I need to, I can use the built-in commenting features or even open it in Word on the desktop if I want to do annotations and all that sort of stuff. And I've got a simple feedback box here, which I'm going to be a very bad teacher and give you very bad feedback, but you can put in the marks there and then return it to the student. They then get a notification that the teacher has marked it. Or maybe the teacher doesn't want to hand it back straight away. They can grade each of them, and then when it comes to the big list, then just tick the ones they want to hand back and then return those to the students. So it's a simple workflow. You'll work on Windows or Mac on the browser or the app, and you can also use the iPad app or the Android apps to be able to edit and hand in work as well. As a student, I can see, or a teacher, all my assignments on the side here. I can just click on assignments, and from across all my classes, I'll be able to see everything that's been set up for me. Within Teams as well, what I may want to do is be able to add other resources for the students to be able to view. So here in this channel, I can add other resources that I want along the top. So click on the plus button. You can pin in a form, a PDF, a video from Microsoft Stream, a YouTube clip using Flipgrid, and any of these sort of non-Microsoft tools as well that you want to add. So at the moment, plagiarism detection is a tool called Halder that works, and Microsoft is working with Turnitin, the most popular one I've come across in the UK, to have that integrated as well. If I want to add a resource in, the way it's viewed is I can just click on, I added a Stream channel. Stream's Microsoft's video hosting platform that you get included with Office 365, and I've added the channel there so the students can watch the videos right here from within Teams without having to go out elsewhere. Or I've added a YouTube clip, so rather than the students getting distracted by everything else that they might see when they're going on the actual YouTube site, that will load the YouTube clip within the team, possibly, if the network works. And then they can also add other third-party resources, like MindMeister is a common mind mapping tool. It's not a Microsoft product. You can add that in, use your Office 365 credentials, and you've got a collaborative mind map there within Teams itself, rather than having to get lost and jump across to different tools. And Flipgrid's another one. Microsoft purchased Flipgrid. It's a fantastic tool for student voice where students can respond with video feedback. So they can log in with their credentials, and then they'll see the task at hand from the teacher. In this case, I'm the teacher, and I'll see the task that I've got to do, explain how the planets and sun interact in our solar system, and then I can record my video response here using the browser. So we're not going to do that right now, but you can see how that all works. So that's sort of the essence of Teams. It brings your resources together, allows you to communicate, and it allows you to be able to do assignments in a class team. In a standard team, many institutions are working with at the moment are using the power of Teams. They want to move files to the cloud, so they will say, well, do I need a SharePoint document library? Should I share lots of files from OneDrive? Should I use a group? Many of them going, well, why don't we use Teams? Because within Teams, files area is created, Teams can be created for them, and then they can add their resources in here. You may recognize that logo. You don't just have to use Microsoft tools, you can add in other cloud storage if you are working with that. Other cloud services are available to connect in, but of course, yes, you can turn them off as well if you don't want to have different pots to put your files in. So this is what a sort of standard team looks like. It's got the same questions that you can ask in conversations, and you can straight away, if you want to communicate with people, there's a Meet Now button where you can just straight away start an audio or video call. Of course, that might be a bit tricky in a classroom, so yes, you can turn that off. Or when it comes to sort of more ad hoc communication, you get chat. So the chat is, I guess, the analogy I give to teachers, a bit like WhatsApp for school. You've probably heard of shadow IT, where you might think, oh, our teachers don't use a lot of IT, but they're using IT, but not the school-based systems. Here they can use what they're familiar with instant messaging, and put this on their mobile devices, and they can then ask and message questions. So I've got a question thread here with Ada, and I can post that, and then she can pick that up. And she can initiate an audio call, if she's allowed to, and a video call, and screen sharing, and all that sort of stuff. So that's already half an hour, wow. And I've been told to leave 15 minutes for questions. Any questions? Yes?
The main issue we're having is multiple teams for the students. You know, they might do 11 subjects. I know there's a bit coming to do with hiding continuous usage of different teams.
Right, so I guess the question, just to repeat that one, was students are in many different teams. Is it how they manage that? Is that the question? Or?
Yeah, it's just the biggest gripe we're getting is too many teams.
Okay, so each class typically has a team, and if you're integrating with your information system, then they probably have a unique code. What you don't want to do is just say, teachers, you can create your own team, and then you get one's called, I don't know, maths. Is that the maths department? What class is that? Is that last year's class, this year's class? So yes, at the moment, the teams are visible down the side here. You can hide them away, so I'm actually a member of many teams in this instance, but I don't need to access all of them frequently. So I can hide them away and just have my favorites here, and I can expand and retract them as necessary. I am aware, I think is what you're indicating, there is a refinement to the interface coming shortly. Having not worked for Microsoft, I can't tell you any deadlines, but there is a lot of resources I can show you around where to find out what's coming next. Which leads me what I'll show you now while you're thinking of another question. I'll just put some of these slides on the board, which is hopefully going to come up. There we go. Common questions I get asked: how do I create the teams? Well, there's the school data sync. How do I control the team creation? There's instructions there. You can actually have a naming policy, custom block words. You don't want a student making a finance team and adding their finance director to it. And you can classify the teams. Some of the new stuff that's come out recently, there's something called live events. If you're on a Office 365 or Microsoft 365 A3 plan, you can host something which is called a live event, where it might be you've got a live video webinar to all teachers in the trust or something like that. You can record all these calls, by the way, and they can be published into Microsoft Stream to be viewed at a later date. There's beta integration with Moodle now, and with Turnitin. There's a fantastic tool called Microsoft Whiteboard. Anyone seen that? Great. It's a fantastic tool that you can download for Windows 10, for iOS. Android's coming soon, and it's web-based, where you can use your pen to annotate and you can bring in pictures, a bit like a standard interactive board. But working with Teams means you can have a shared whiteboard when you're on a call. So you might be doing distance learning, or you're teaching maths or something like that. You can either use it in Teams in a call or just separately. And the class materials that I talked about. What's coming soon? Well, I haven't shown you where the grades go here in Microsoft Teams. So if I just switch back to the teacher here, when they have their class, they can go to their assignments. Thank you. Yep, let's switch that one in the show for a second. And we want to this screen here. When I go to review all my tasks here, I can export this information into Excel. That makes an Excel spreadsheet, a CSV file, which I can then use. It keeps the grades and the comments, if I've got them there, including any ones that have been created with forms. And they announced at the BET show, I think it's in preview as well, the information that you have in the marks can go back into your information system. So those grades, there's something called ClassLink that can write back into Sims or other providers that support that integration, so you don't have a separate mark book in Teams itself. You can write it back into your information system. So that's a feature as well that's quite new. But what is in the roadmap, well, Microsoft has a public roadmap that you can get these links afterwards. Within that roadmap, something that's been announced is Teams Education Gradebook, so that the gradebook will be able to keep track of each class's assignments. And the big thing that teachers want to be able to see a single student's progress across all their assignments, which may help with the teachers with too many teams perhaps as well. And there'll be a weekly parent email digest so that the parents are informed of what tasks have been set. And there's that grade sync, that's its official name, that links with the information system. Also on the public roadmap, I mean there's a lot, I've just picked a few highlights specifically for education, is the per team and cross team analytics. Working with educators, they want to know how much is teachers using the teams, what assignments have been set, how do I know? They understand that you do get some decent analytics already in Teams, but it doesn't break it down per user type. You can't tell whether it's a student or a teacher in the initial analysis that you've got and who's using what and who's sending messages. But that will be available then. That's calendar year June 2019. And also channel moderation. Teachers sometimes want to be able to put posts in there that the students can't edit or remove. You do have some key controls. I'll just switch back to my browser just to show you a few of the management tools. As a teacher, I can manage my team. And here I have settings where I can say what members are allowed to do, whether people can delete their posts, whether the teacher can delete posts and edit them, whether the students can do different things. There's a thing called fun stuff, where you can turn off GIFs and animations and stickers and memes, or you can turn them on if they've been allowed. And what I talked about earlier with muting, the teacher can either mute an individual student or the whole of the class. That doesn't stop them using that in other classes, it's just in your class. The conversations here is now being disabled, so students can't use that to converse. Any other questions? Yes?
We're coming to that time of year, summer. We talked about retention earlier. Some of those classes are going to have to be archived, moved. When we spoke to the Teams guys 18 months ago now, they said they know they have to do some work on it and it would come, but I've not heard anything since.
Sure. So, great question. That was about what happens at the end of the academic year to the team that you've already got. Did I show you archiving at that point, or you haven't seen that?
No, archiving wasn't there.
Okay, so within Teams you have a few options. For this class, I can click on the three dots here, and I can see these are my options. When I go to my settings down here, however, this is my options for the teams that I manage. So I can pick one of my classes here, and I can say, this is manually, I am going to find one of these and I'm going to manage that specific team. Oops, my mistake, clicked on the wrong one. Let me pick one of these here. That actually, there we go, archive team. The reason I couldn't do that one is something specific. Each of the teams that I want to, I can archive, or I can have a time frame where it expires if there's no communication. When I archive it, it then says, do you want to freeze all activity? People will still be able to add and remove members. What do you want to do with the SharePoint files area? I can make that read-only and archive it, and then it appears at the bottom here under archive. Or I can still pull out a previous assignment if I want to recreate that. Now, within our resources that I'm going to share with you, there is some fantastic tools. That's the resources that I built just in Wakelet. So bit.ly Teams IT. Just bring that up to show you the answer to another one of your questions that you had. bit.ly/Teams IT. Here's Wakelet. I've put links that are more specifically relevant for IT managers in education. Now, the first thing I'll come back to in a second, there's the roadmap specifically filtered for features coming in Teams. What's new in Teams, the Teams blog. Now, here's a common FAQ for education governance. And one of the questions in here is, how do I deal with Teams when the semester or quarter ends? So there's three tools that you can use. There's retention policies to delete all data older than a certain age. There's an expiration policy, so you can say, for example, after 30 days if it will be deleted if you don't do anything there, and you can archive the team, which is the one I showed you. There's now a graph API, so you can do a lot more programmatic stuff as an administrator using PowerShell. I can share those links with you if you've got any other additional questions. Anyone else with anything else they'd like to ask? Okay, at the front first. Yeah.
We use Skype for Business quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Can you, when you're sending out the meeting invites, can you schedule via Outlook to do and have Teams pick that up and have it picked up in Teams?
You can indeed. So the question was, when you are scheduling a meeting in Outlook, can you schedule a Teams meeting? Yes, you can now do it on the mobile platforms as well as in the browser and in the desktop. If I start a new calendar here in Outlook Online, and just do a new appointment, there's a little toggle switch that allows you to do that. You can choose with the way you want to integrate Teams, either as Island with Skype for Business as well as Teams if you're in that transition period, or you can have it so it overtakes as the default communication app. Or let's just answer your question first. When you are in your appointment here, has this account got it enabled? There we go. You can toggle between a Skype meeting and a Teams meeting in my particular instance that I've got set up. And question from you, sir, behind?
Oh yeah, you mentioned something about progress reports for teachers. Is there anything for parents, for example?
Great question. So there's currently no access specifically for parents. You could, of course, create a team and add guests as parents as guests. They could then log in that, but they wouldn't be in the class necessarily. We could, but I don't know many teachers that want all parents to see everything that goes in the class. What was announced on that roadmap, as I said, was a parent or guardian email digest. So they'll get a once a week saying, this is what's going on, or these are the tasks that have been set. Now, just a couple of other bits. So also in this white clip, I'll put it in the slideshow because Microsoft are very keen for me to show you this. You might go, where do I get started? I'm using Office 365 a bit, but haven't really made much progress or haven't begun my journey. What help can be provided? Microsoft UK have set up this UK Education Assistance Program, which is providing free support for planning, deployment and adoption of Microsoft 365, including remote access to Microsoft engineering expertise, best practices, tools and resources. Does not matter at what stage of deployment of Office 365 you are, you can use the support to tackle any technical or adoption issues at hand. How do you get access to that? Well, you fill in an online form, which is on that link that I'll share, and from there a rep will get back to you within 48 hours and I'll set up a call with the relevant person. What you can expect is remote support in planning and implementation, and the relevant documentation and tools and some guides to help you if you're thinking, well, I don't know, how do I get my files from documents into OneDrive, or how do I create teams, those sorts of bits of questions you might have. One more minute, any other questions? Yes?
My question's a bit basic, but I know a teacher will ask this. If you're bringing in a resource into your team, like a YouTube video, that's just a pointer to the YouTube video, isn't it?
Yep, great question. If you are bringing a YouTube clip into Teams, is that just a pointer? It is indeed. I'll just show you how I do it. Just do a plus here. I'll click on YouTube, and it's purely either searching or pasting in a link. So if I'm searching for...
Now if you're bringing in a Word document,
Yep.
that actually moves the document into...
Yes, so you could choose to bring a link in to the document if you've shared it from within OneDrive, but there's a whole lot changing in the way that you can automate that. But normally if you add it to that files area, it is a copy of that file, that document that you've got.
Because I know a teacher will delete the original.
Yeah, you don't want to have too many versions.
Yeah.
And that's where some best practice guidance is important, because there are a few different ways you can do it, and you want to make sure that teachers don't duplicate things. So I've just added it there, and that's just a link to the YouTube clip. So if your filtering's in place at school, you won't be able to get past it if that's what you had. Fantastic. Yes, one last question.
Are there any plans to level of integration between record center and discovery with Teams?
What was the integration with what, sorry?
Record center and discovery.
Right, yes. The question was, is there plans for any integration with Records Centre and eDiscovery? Yes, it is already in place within eDiscovery. So the chat is what they call persistent chat. You can then use eDiscovery and find any of the conversations that with a government department I've been working with recently. They wanted to make sure any freedom of information requests to come through, including the discussions. Yes, they can all be there. So if you've set up keyword triggers and those sorts of stuff within eDiscovery, you can utilise that within the discussions and teams and chats as well. Okay, the last, very last, yeah.
If you've been using Office 365 for a while and you already have a SharePoint site and a Office 365 group, can you upgrade that to a team?
Great question. What if you've already been using Office 365, you've got an existing SharePoint site and or an Office 365 group, can you upgrade it to a team? Yes. Manually, I click Create Team. If I use any one team, it says Create a Team. Oops, what's it enabled on this one? You can, yes, it will allow you to pick from an existing Office 365 group. It's hidden just under here with a screen resolution. With a SharePoint site, you can bring an existing SharePoint site, so I can click on here and then do Add and pick SharePoint as an existing document library or an existing SharePoint site. So the answer is yes. Onenote's documentation, there's some fantastic guides for IT administrators, and one of them is that question, because I think, well, do I have to then reinvent all the stuff I've already done earlier? Perhaps, depending on the architecture, but you may be able to reuse stuff you've already put in place. Fantastic, thank you everyone.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot for it.